Hi everybody, welcome back to the Southern Scouser. It's Easter Sunday, the sun is shining and Liverpool are off the back of an amazing 3-0 win away to Arsenal. Today I have the absolute pleasure to welcome James, aka Thiagos' father, who is going to be joining me on the Red Sea podcast coming up on Never a Foul. How you doing, mate? Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing. Yesterday was a sensational result. The football we played was absolutely unreal. And like you said, it's Easter Sunday, the sun's shining. What a way to actually come on here and, share it with fans.
Exactly, like you say, it's everything that's right in the world, isn't it? The difference it makes to us Liverpool fans, when Liverpool get a victory after a horrible run, it's so depressing, isn't it, when you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you don't want to get too excited, but you know the potential of the Liverpool players. They've got that in the locker to turn it on, a bit like a switch that maybe Arsenal's team don't really have that, do they? They're probably in a position where whether they play their best or not, roughly they're going to be finishing in that kind of area. But Liverpool definitely been underperforming up to last night at least.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was tough viewing, watching back some of the clips from when we appeared on the Arsenal way. Those boys get 10 out of 10 for confidence. Yeah, because they were putting it on there thinking, yeah, this is in the bag, it's going to be easy, Liverpool, this and that. And I just sat there thinking to myself, you boys do not know what is about to come your way. And I think there was a couple of standout performers for me in that game that really, really made us tick. Firstly, Fabinho in the midfield holding role,
Massive,
in that sixth role, mate, absolutely massive for us. You can see the difference when he plays in there, and obviously you've seen on my Twitter timeline that I've been calling for this probably since he went back into the centre back role, for him to step back into midfield, because we missed, his accomplished and assured performances. Because every time Arsenal tried to break the lines, he cut it out. I seem to remember in the game there was a point where he had 3 players on him, and he managed to cut the ball out and play it off, and we were on the attack. So we missed that dominant presence in the midfield. And then the introduction of Jota from the bench just gave us that impetus to go on forward, that little bit of kick, that bite that I always talk about that we lack up front, or have lacked up front this season. And it's almost like he's dragging the other 3 along at times, with respect. But I think that's due to his desire and will to impress. I don't think it's an ability thing, because when we look at the ability of Mane on his day, the ability of Firmino on his day, and the ability of Salah on his day, those 3 together as a collective are probably one of, if not the best front 3 in world football. Nobody foresaw what Jota was going to do this season at Liverpool, and I don't think I'd be alone when I got that sinking feeling when Werner put pen to paper at Chelsea. And we all sat there and thought, oh my God, what have FSG done? They've let him slip through the net. We've been tracking him for 2 seasons. It was open in the papers. Werner wanted Liverpool. Liverpool wanted Werner. Klopp wanted Werner. Werner wanted Klopp. It was open. It was almost like this love affair between the club and this player for about a season and a half. And then he goes and puts pen to paper at Chelsea, and it's a head in hands moment. But my God.
It was, but it looks like it's the right decision, doesn't it? Now, going back to what you said, obviously on Never a Foul, guys, if you see us, we did a little Arsenal preview, our Red Sea debut, and as Thiago's father was rightly saying, these Arsenal fans were calling 3-1, easy win. Confidence was sky high, wasn't it? And we were saying you wait and see. That the amount of banter we get as Liverpool fans in that group chat, it's so nice to be able to give it out, isn't it? But no, I agree. You look at the Werner, that feels like a long time ago now, doesn't it? Was that last summer?
Yeah, it was. It was off the back. The initial links came off the back of his performances for Germany, where he was in blistering form, and then he continued that form into the league with Leipzig last season, and the season before that. He was lightning. And again, it's not to belittle Werner, because you can see there's a top quality player in there, But at the moment, it almost reminds me of when Torres went to Chelsea.
Yeah, there seems to be the Chelsea striker disease, doesn't it?
100%. It seems like
Morata
he
as
just
well.
Morata, Lukaku, Werner
Yeah,
now, Torres. They all
Kesman,
seem,
Crespo, never seem to do it, have they?
yeah, Shevchenko.
Yeah, another
They
good one.
they sign these unbelievable forward players, and you think to yourself, oh my god, they're going to just absolutely dominate more than they have done in recent years. Because we can't
Yeah,
deny Chelsea have been a dominant force in the Premier League, so you have to give them their respect. But
absolutely.
my god, do they know how to ruin a striker?
No, I agree. You look back at the Torres deal at the time. We lost him. We brought Suarez in, and we ended up making. I think Suarez was half the fee that we sold Torres for. But looking back, like you say, Diogo Jota's the man that they went with, and yeah, I knew. Obviously, we both knew about him at Wolves. We both knew he was a decent player. I think we were mostly used to seeing him wide because obviously Jimenez was the main guy for Wolves, but boy, oh boy, as he stepped up, scoring for Portugal, was it 3-2, and then obviously 2 for us last night. And I did an Instagram live as well, which I've never done before. I thought I'd give it a go. And I was saying at halftime, Jota's got to come in because we both thought he'd start. I think only because Firmino had the international break pretty much as a rest that he started. But again, Mane and Firmino, as you said, we know their quality, but they're still struggling to score goals, and it's still Salah and Jota that are making the difference, isn't it? So, but I agree again with your, with your comments on the style of play. Fabinho back in midfield is huge, and I feel even when you've got Kabak and Phillips, they're not necessarily the best defenders in the world, but we've not had that consistency. This is the first time I think in the season we've played the same centre backs together, 4 or 5 games in a row.
That's correct.
Yeah, the difference that makes, and then Trent and Robertson, to me, last night, we're back to last season, in terms of their average position on the pitch, getting forward, getting involved, getting crosses in, and the difference it makes. You look at the goals. Trent's cross for Jota's header was absolutely sublime, and we've not seen that. And Trent's reaction to the goal was everything. He's been criticised, he's been left out of the England team, and to see him put that absolutely on a peach, still work for Jota to do, but what a ball that was.
Oh, totally. I mean, yesterday's performance from Trent was almost 2 fingers up to Gareth Southgate.
Yeah, it was.
I personally think that as an England manager, Gareth Southgate's inept. He doesn't have a clue about what his best 11 is, what his formation he wants to play is. You see different variants of a formation, or based on personnel he decides to put out every single game. And for Trent to potentially be in danger of not being on that plane is farcical to me. I appreciate his performances this season haven't been of the level that he has consistently set over the last 3 seasons, but I think it's wrong to judge him by his own lofty standards.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's judge him based on the competition he's up against. Yeah, because Reece James hasn't been blistering form. Yeah, he's not been that far ahead of him. No. The other candidates, what we got, Wan-Bissaka back there as well.
Yeah, Walker, Trippier.
Trippier. Don't get me wrong, Trippier's been good, but Atletico seem to have fallen off a little bit in La Liga, so they've slowed down. You've obviously got the ban for gambling and whatever not hanging over his head. So there's that. So there's a few doubts there. Wan-Bissaka, we know what Wan-Bissaka can do. Solid defender, you can't deny it. Very, very good defensively, but has he got the attributes to play forward? I don't think he does.
That's it. I agree. I agree. I mean, like you say, no, correct. Yeah, I mean, Trent is a big game player, and he has been a big game player for 2 or 3 years, hasn't he? He's got a league title under his belt. He's played in 2 Champions League finals, winning 1.
Back-to-back.
Yeah, exactly. And you look at Reece James. Okay, yeah, he's coming to the Chelsea team. He's initially lost his place to Azpilicueta. That almost doesn't get mentioned. He couldn't even get the Chelsea team, let alone the England squad. And yeah, Kyle Walker's Mr. Consistent, but what is he, 30 now? And you look at Gareth Southgate. He's got a whole extra year to decide his team, his lineup, his squad. And as you say, he still doesn't know it. You know, he could pick 30 players tomorrow, and come June, it could be 10 changes. He has no idea what he's doing. And for me personally, you know, us Scousers, or at least in the South, we tend to get a little bit of you know, negativity when it comes to England, and you know, we're Scouse and all that business. But I've always followed England, but you know, over the last few years, it's become pretty boring, other than the, you know, the main tournament. And this time, for the first time ever, I did not watch a minute of all 3 England games. And it almost, obviously Henderson was missing through injury, but it almost felt like we'd been let down. That, you know, Trent, of course, it's not even a conversation. He should be in the squad at a minimum, you know, at least fighting for the starting lineup. But yeah, that really lost my interest in this England camp. And
mate, I totally agree. I just don't understand it. When you're hearing news, and again, this is all media reports. We can only rely on the information given to us. When you're seeing media reports of Jesse Lingard potentially going over Grealish and Sancho, I just think to myself, get in the bin. You know, England, England for me is just pointless. We're not going to win anything solely because we lack that adventurous style of manager. When you look at the managers in the England setup, right from the senior team through to the 23s or 21s, no one in that setup has got any proven winning mentality or experience. You look at Gareth Southgate, failed career as a player. Let's be honest, his career wasn't glittering, was it?
No, it was decent, wasn't it? But not.
He made a number of appearances, but he didn't really win anything apart from Middlesbrough having that. Was it the UEFA Cup run under Steve McLaren? They had a successful Europa campaign, and Middlesbrough put in a lot of investment in at the time. You saw players like Gaisca Mendieta going into Zenden, you know, Hasselbank, those kind of players going into Middlesbrough. So. And he then carried on that the management after that, but he failed, didn't he?
They still haven't come back that day.
No, they got relegated.
They've never been back.
They got relegated. They've never been back since then.
No,
yeah. You then look at 100%. You then look at AD Boothroyd at 21s, and the pool of at 23s, the pool of talent that they've got in that setup there.
Should be walking it.
Unbelievable. You've got Curtis Jones. You've got Foden. You know, Hudson-Odoi. You know, the list of players in there is unbelievable, and still he managed. He plays Tom Davis over Curtis Jones.
Do you know? I was just going to say, like some of the lads in the Never a Foul group obviously follow the 21s. I don't personally. I was following it in the chat, and it got me a bit more interested. And I was honestly trying to come to terms with how is Curtis Jones starting 10, 15 games for Liverpool this season and not playing for the England under 21s, and you've got someone like Skip who is playing for Norwich in the Championship starting the game. To me, it's just, and as you say, Southgate came from the under 21s to the senior team. So you're absolutely spot on with what you say. The youth of English football has been managed over the last 5 to 10 years by Southgate and AD Boothroyd. What chance do we have?
Exactly, and what standard are we trying to reach? You know, and I'm all for. You and I both coach at various different levels, and I'm all for the England DNA, and I'm all for bringing coaches through based on the England DNA. But there are adequate coaches out there which haven't necessarily played Premier League football, because that, to me, that's not a requisite of what you need to be a top draw coach. That's not a requisite of what you need. But you need to have some coaching ability, and I don't see that from this current setup and this current regime. I feel if England have a failed campaign, Southgate needs to be sacked. I think Boothroyd is already on the chopping board as it is. You know, I like Graham Potter. Actually, I have to give respect to what he's done at Brighton. I really like Potter. You know,
I agree with you. You want to see someone come in with just a little bit of attacking ability. I mean, Eddie Howe's this week been linked to Celtic, and you think, well, let's look at Southgate versus Howe. Southgate has managed one team and got relegated. Howe's managed a small team, got them into the Premier League. All right, they've gone down eventually. I mean, they were up for what, 2 or 3 seasons, and
3 seasons punching above their weight, and it
I
wasn't
mean,
just one promotion; it was back-to-back promotions.
absolutely. Yeah, it was never going to.
Back-to-back
It was never going to
promotions.
last forever, was it? Because the size of Bournemouth, it's impossible to stay there. But someone like that, someone like Graham Potter, is a very similar style of play. I
Yeah.
completely agree with you. That would fill me with so much more confidence and would make me want to watch England a little bit more. But thankfully, we get to watch a red team weekly and not a white team once every 3 months.
Exactly.
So going on to those other 2 goals, mate. Obviously, Salah got the second.
Yeah.
Gabriel, probably from an Arsenal perspective, at fault for that goal, but for me, it was just Salah, too good, dribbling through, worked his little bit of magic, turning and found a little finish between Leno's legs. What did you think of that one?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to run it back to prior to the goal, or prior to all of the goals, really. A man that was instrumental in creating and obviously, cutting Arsenal apart was Thiago.
I
really, really think that we saw the best of him in Liverpool shirt last night, and that gave the forwards the ability to break the lines. We haven't done that for a while. The Salah goal was just typical Mo Salah, wasn't it? The moment he gets a bit of space and gets a run on you stand pretty much no chance unless. And you know what? And even if you want to get physical with him, he's up for a physical battle. He's happy to do that. Yeah, he's happy to physical battle. He's happy to try and run. He's happy to try and take it round you. It's like, what answer do you have to him as a defender when you see him running at you? I mean, we almost saw Man United at Old Trafford Part 2 when Alisson puts the ball over the top and knocks Mo in, and I thought, oh, here we go. And I was already typing my message in the group chat.
It was ready.
Yeah, but it wasn't. But you just see the quality that he provides and the spaces that he picks up. Whilst he plays on the outside, he drifts inside as well. He wants to link up play. He wants to shoot. He's just hungry, and for him to be the Premier League leading goal scorer at this stage in the season, odds-on favourite obviously for the Golden Boot in arguably an underperforming Liverpool team by our own standards. And I'll keep saying by our own standards. I won't be judged by these flash in the pan teams around us like West Ham, and I won't be judged by a flash in the pan Chelsea, who have now started to kind of get some momentum after the new manager bounce. And teams such as Leicester were knocking the door last year, but ultimately fell away. The only really sustained competition in that top 4 teams and the sustained competition over the last 3 years has been Manchester City. The rest of these boys are a flash in the pan. And you look at Villa. Villa were challenging top 5, top 4 until 3-4 months ago. So in a season where there's no supporters around and COVID has ravaged through many squads and has changed the landscape of English football, naturally you will see some shift there, where teams will put sustained top 4 challenges together. City have, undoubtedly been the standout performers this year, stringing, win after win. I think they went 17 on the bounce, didn't they?
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. And only Manchester City and potentially us are capable of those kind of runs, which shows the dominancy that we've had and the challenge that we've had over the last 3 years, back to back with Manchester City. But I honestly, I feel like to be top scorer in the league in an underperforming Liverpool side by our own standards is fantastic from Mo, and I think he needs to really get the credit he's deserved.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you mentioned Chelsea there, coming off a pretty horrible run of form, Liverpool, and obviously we were waiting to see that kind of performance, weren't we, before we could start feeling confidence for the rest of the season. And after Chelsea's a crazy defeat to West Brom, it became an absolute must-win. Klopp wasn't giving too much away in the pre-match conference, but in that dressing room that result is so huge for the rest of Liverpool's season. And I can guarantee you those Chelsea fans that were giving it the big one are now sweating big time. What a difference a day makes. You've gone from a 5-point behind with 9 games to go to 2 points behind with 8 games to go. What a massive difference that makes. So, I don't I still think it's it's in Chelsea's hands, of course, because we need them to drop points. But looking at the fixtures, looking at last night's result, and more importantly for me, the performance, I've not felt like I've watched Liverpool and enjoyed it that much for quite some time. We went through in the Champions League, which was a nice break from the horrible league form, wasn't it? But even the win against Wolves, it was edgy, wasn't it? It was like we just need to get a scruffy 1-0 win. But to see Liverpool dominate, let's be honest, the first half, and should have been going in at least 1-up with Milner having a couple of the good chances to, we got everything we deserved in that game and in that second half. And looking at the third goal as well, Arsenal had no answer, did they? Gabriel trying to play the ball out the back. Trent cuts it in, so he's already got an assist. He's then won the ball back for the third goal. Salah crosses it in, and that man again, who we did think would start, but we knew, especially at half time, that he'd be introduced and make that difference. And right, it was 3-0 victory, and we can all relax and start giving it out to Arsenal fans.
Yeah,
massively.
totally.
Yeah.
I mean, this month, the month of April, is a huge month for Liverpool Football Club for various reasons. Obviously, we're still in the Champions League, and next week we go away to Real Madrid. It's not going to be an easy fixture by any stretch of the imagination. But one thing to consider is Real Madrid are not the Real Madrid of old. And whilst we're having an off season, a lackluster season, I really, really feel that we can get that Real Madrid side. I expect Ramos to play. I'm not buying into this injury and so on. No, I'm not buying it. I expect him to play. Real Madrid have form for doing this, especially with Ramos. I looked back at historics in terms of big fixtures, and Real Madrid will always say, "Oh, Ramos is injured," and then he plays. So
suddenly he's in that lineup an hour before kickoff. His name's
suddenly he's in the lineup. So unless it's a really bad injury, I expect him to be in that lineup or at least named on the bench. For Real Madrid, because there's no denying his quality. He's a top draw centre back, and just seeing him on the bench or even anywhere near the starting 11 is going to make players kind of up their game in that Real Madrid dressing room. Again, we look at for example, Chelsea's fixtures. Next week they go up against Palace. I think that'll be academic, really, because Palace aren't really they're secure now in the Premier League. Once they get safe, they roll over. Let's be honest, they roll over. So I can see that being academic. They then go to Brighton, which is a tricky fixture because we know Brighton enjoy playing football. They take risks.
They beat us and Spurs.
Yeah, they take risks, and often their risks pay off. They're getting the rewards now. And Potter's really got them playing some good football. And then they go to West Ham, which is a crunch match. I'm hoping for a draw in that game. To be fair, a draw plays into our hands even more. And then you think after that they got Fulham coming up, which should be again academic, but with respect, Fulham are playing some good stuff as well. Scotty Parker's got those boys playing decent football.
Like you say, Fulham's the local derby of Chelsea. That's the local rivalry. So, they're going to be up to that. And as you say, I mean, you're looking at the league table. Fulham are the one team that's sitting in that 18th position. I think Newcastle behind at the minute to Spurs. A few minutes left in that one.
So, yeah.
Yeah, they are. They've 2-1 down with about 5 to go. So, Fulham are now 2 points off of Newcastle. So, they're playing Villa this afternoon. They're going to be fighting hammer and tong for every possible point. So, they're, like you said, they're the sort of teams you don't want at the end of the season. You want the mid-table obscurity teams who have got absolutely nothing and they're on the beach already.
Totally.
And I look at Liverpool's game. We've got some horrible. Sorry, mate. Go on.
Their last game, interestingly enough, is against Manchester City.
With Chelsea's.
Yeah, and we know that City don't lie down against anyone, whether the league's won or not. They're always going to come and play football. So I would expect Manchester City to win that. So it's not, and I said this very, very early before, this game with Arsenal. It's not done and dusted. Liverpool are still in the hunt for top 4. Whilst we are relying on the results of others, that's football. Sometimes you find yourself in these positions where you need others to get results and you get a slice of luck on the way, so on and so forth. but Chelsea should really be looking over their shoulder and
Big
looking
time.
worried. I mean, my brother's a Chelsea fan for his sins, and he tweeted yesterday
Yeah.
on his Twitter timeline. The new manager buzz hasn't yielded a game where we've scored more than 2 goals comfortably, yet spending 200 million. That's not good enough. He's a very honest Chelsea fan and says it how it is. I mean, today again, further tweets. I'm all for giving players time, but quality players don't need a full season to find their feet. They don't just take a year out of being a star player to
Yeah.
adjust. So I think Chelsea have had a real big wake-up call. Their fan base has come back to earth with a thud, and
Yeah.
Liverpool are hunting them down.
They were floating, weren't they? They were floating in air after the last. I mean, like you say, Tuchel. There's no argument. Tuchel has improved Chelsea big time,
100%.
and
100%. Top quality
as you
manager.
say, yeah. But in this crazy season of all seasons, we've hopefully now had our dip, and hopefully Chelsea's is from now to the end of the season. But as you say, with Man City, the competition within that squad, then they're all fighting against each other for that first 11 positions, and no way is that a done and dusted game, even if the league's decided. Because if Chelsea or even Man City are still involved in the Champions League at that point, they're all fighting for a position in that starting 11. You know, Man City might be in the final. Who knows? So I completely agree that Chelsea really, so confident with a 5-point lead with 9 games to go. Suddenly 2 points gap. And as you said, we're not just relying on Chelsea. We've got West Ham, you've got Spurs, you've got Everton. They're all still within the hunt with us. Spurs are now joint with us, same games played, same points. West Ham have got a game in hand with the same points, and Everton have got 2 games in hand with 3 points behind. So we know Everton are not the most consistent. So I would hope we'd finish above them, but yeah, we're still waiting on snookers. And Leicester, obviously they lost to City, which most teams do, but they've probably got they got 56, we've got 49, so not
They're
impossible.
Catchable.
Yeah,
They're catchable.
exactly.
I mean, their running games isn't exactly the easiest running games as well. So it's almost like we're in a little mini league, a little super mini league at the moment where we're all playing each other now.
That's
and
right.
people are going to be taking points off each other. There's going to be draws and so on and so forth. I mean, interestingly enough, Newcastle now level 85 minutes. So
Oh, really? They've equalised?
yeah, they've equalised. So
Oh,
Spurs
wow.
look like they're about to drop points as well. So
Yeah.
we are firmly in with a shout for top 4,
massive.
potentially a top 3 finish. In this little mini league that's going on. Maybe top 3 might be a little bit ambitious, but shoot for the the stars, aim for the moon, as they say.
Exactly,
so
like you say. Yeah.
It can happen. It can happen.
Yeah. No, that's massive. I agree. I mean, obviously, just to kind of close, I don't want to go on forever and ever. Obviously, get back to our families and enjoy our nice Sunday roasts and naps, whatever we want to do. But in terms of that Real Madrid game coming up, mate, I'm sure we'll do a proper preview before that, whether that's on here or somewhere else. But what's your prediction? I mean, with the lineup, does Jota start? Does Wijnaldum come back in for you as well?
I think there's no coincidence that Jota and Ginny were rested for the first kind of half against Arsenal. They played every minute of the internationals in the international break. So that little rest, that couple of days they had when they got back, trained, a bit of rest, only made sort of cameo appearances, so to speak, in the Arsenal game. Obviously, Jota's cameo appearance ended in 2 goals. And Ginny came on very, very near to the end.
Yeah, he
did. Which probably gets a little bit of freshness back in those legs. But I expect Ginny to be in from the start against Real Madrid. And I'd probably expect to see Jota off the bench again to give us a little bit of something different off the bench against Real. In terms of how I see the game panning out, it's a tough one. We don't know what Real Madrid are going to turn up.
I don't watch a lot of Spanish football.
Yeah, I mean, I catch bits here and there. I mean, I can't say that I've been religious on it because obviously they've lost their TV deal. So it's hard to watch it. It's hard to get it. So it's just keeping up with the results. I am a Real Madrid fan for my sins when we look at the Spanish league. Real Madrid are my preferred team. And when you look at on the pitch, they have got quality in all areas. We can't forget the likes of Modric, can't forget the likes of Toni Kroos, who kind of reinvented himself this year and actually is starting to produce goals. He's never really added goals to his game. apart from very early on in his Bayern career. But goals are starting to come. Modric, as I said, is just the same Luka Modric, knitting things together. And what he does is he's reading of the game. Whilst he's not pacey, he's got a phenomenal understanding of the game, which then allows him to get in front of the defenders or his opponent. Casemiro, again, is just all action kind of midfielder, but again is also adding goals to his games. He's popping up in the box an awful lot recently, and trying to add goals to his game. We know about Ramos. We know what Ramos brings. Ramos is has always been the same. He likes to drag the game into a dogfight. And once it gets scrappy, that's where he kind of does his damage. You only look at what happened with him and Mo in Madrid in the final, and arguably if that hadn't happened, would we be looking at a different result? They've got Varane, who is a Rolls Royce of a player.
I do.
He's been very quiet on the of late. And there was murmurings. There's always been murmurings over the last sort of 18 months, 2 years of him leaving, and he's not particularly happy and so on. But he's a Rolls Royce of a player. It's undeniable. And when you look at the forward line as well, Benzema.
That's what I was going to ask you. A lot of people seem to think he's still peak of his powers. For me, I don't know. What are your thoughts on him?
Benzema's still a threat. We can't sit and deny an informed Benzema playing up against Kabak and Phillips. That is going to be a concern. He's reinvented himself. He's a fox in the box kind of striker. He feeds off scraps, So we can't sit and say he's getting the quality balls into the box and quality supply, because Real Madrid haven't been doing that this season. But he's still managing to score goals off scraps. So if a top informed Luka Modric, Toni Kroos turn up, then Benzema, and they play the passes through the lines and they split our defense. And they isolate Kabak and Phillips, then we can be got at. But we have a key weapon in our arsenal, which is Fabinho. So
that's the. I mean, like you say, in terms of doing Champions League predictions 2 weeks ago to off the back of last night's result, I'm so much more confident now going into Tuesday after the back of that performance. Arsenal weren't great, but to see us playing the Liverpool that we know, the Liverpool we've seen for the last couple of years that got us to 2 Champions League finals, got us a league title. And as you say, Fabinho, Kabak and Phillips, we know their limits. And I think Liverpool have started to appreciate that. They're not playing so far forward. We're not trying to play in the same style that we've played that's been so successful, because we've realised that we don't have those players in the team. But whatever centre-backs are behind Fabinho, for me, they've got a pretty easy ride unless there's some serious quality on the opposition, because Arsenal didn't lay a glove on our centre-backs last night. Alisson could have had a deck chair and a newspaper and worked on his tan, couldn't he?
Yeah, 100%.
Sweeping his tash.
all he needed was the Speedos, and he'd be on the beach, wouldn't he, with that tash?
It was, mate. There was nothing there, was
there? Yeah, typical Brazilian tash, mate, that was.
I loved it. It was cool.
But I think with the Kabak and Phillips thing, their best performances, other than last night, have come in the Champions League.
Yeah.
I mean, Kabak is a frustration of mine, because you can see that there's a player in there.
Yeah.
You look at his performances in an international break for Turkey, sensational. You look at the performance against Leipzig, absolutely sensational. Really composed, really accomplished performances. But then, does he look like he's got a calamity mistake in him every now and then when he gets a little bit too cocky or a little bit too rash, or he's not switched on, or is it that now he's finally adjusting to the Liverpool way and how we play? I mean, last night you saw him playing those cross-field balls from back to front, which we associate with Virgil van Dijk. And I'm not for 1 second insinuating that Kabak is the next Van Dijk, so supporters don't come after me. But is he kind of now showing, when it's getting to crunch time, what he can actually bring to this table? And the key question on everybody's lips is does he stay past the summer?
That was my next question, mate. Well, I mean,
yeah,
for me, like you say, Phillips and Kabak, they're not the best on the ball. They're not gonna, it's not a Rolls Royce of a player like Van Dijk is, but what they do well. But for me, Achilles heel with these back two in terms of a future with Liverpool is pace, and neither of them for me have it.
yeah,
The way we want to return to the start of next season is the way that won us the league title. I know we need to adapt. I know you've mentioned changes of formation. It depends on who comes in the summer. But for me, we're always going to play a high line when Van Dijk's in that back with Fabinho or Henderson in front of him. So 18 million for me. Would I prefer Kabak as a fourth choice over Matip? Yes, I would. Would I prefer a better, faster centre back to come in and use that money on instead? Yes, I would as well. So it depends what we're going to do. If we're going to bring in two, I'm all for it. If it's one, I'd rather someone better.
I think that there's a real steal here potentially in terms of the fee. 18 million pounds would represent a relatively cheap signing for a player that's 21, 22.
Yeah, it's good value, isn't it?
Which is good value. I also still think there's ability for us to drive that fee down. I mean, if you look at Schalke's league, you look at Schalke's league position, they're teetering on relegation. So they're going to be desperate to recoup funds, and arguably selling one of their prized assets, because he's their whatever we think of him, whatever the league thinks of him, he is one of Schalke's prized assets. He's one of their better players, and again, for them to be prepared to let him go to Liverpool on loan at that point in the season where they're potentially staring down a barrel of relegation, that tells me they've kind of already given up. They've given up. They've admitted defeat. They said, what? Let's prepare for us to go down. We need to get ourselves into a position where the club's finances and the club are prepared to go down, potentially bounce straight back.
Exactly.
And at the moment, that fee is £18 million, apparently. Could we potentially look at shaving that down to £15 million?
Yeah, I'll let you say it's an option to buy. It's not a contractual obligation, so we've not agreed on that fee yet. It's an option.
Definitely,
so as you say, maybe we can meet somewhere in the middle. And for me, Matip shouldn't be here next season. Gomez and Van Dijk are going to be heavily involved. Maybe Konate becomes that third choice rotation, and Kabak's the fourth, with Phillips probably moving on after his breakout season into, like you say, a Burnley or a bottom half Prem team potentially.
Yeah, it's a tough one really, because we've been linked with a number of centre backs. I really feel like the signings that we're being linked with, and I've been very vocal about this, suggests a switch of tactic and a switch of formation. I could really see us signing two centre backs in the summer. Kabak and one other. Obviously, we're linked with Konate quite heavily. There's reports coming out in the paper that the deal is already done, and they're just waiting to announce it. Again, there's rumours in the papers that Konate wants Liverpool, and Liverpool, and then also the usual Koulibaly links that are coming up. And potentially he's available at a cut price at 42 million when it was 82 million last year. And the year before that, it was 120 million the year before that.
Really?
So
he's the one I'd go for.
His value is dropping with every single year, because he's aging and he's agitating for a move. Napoli want to move him on because, again, he's an asset, and Napoli aren't exactly in the best financial health as well.
No.
So I really see two centre backs coming through the door, whether it's a combination of Kabak or a combination of Konate and someone else, or Kabak and someone else, I don't know. And that would kind of lend itself to maybe a switch to a back five with wing backs, which then allows Trent and Robbo to get more on the ball. I think it's another episode if you want to talk about potential changes of formation.
No, it's good. I think we'll leave that one for another day, because obviously there's lots more that we can cover, and you could talk about Liverpool all day long, couldn't we? But I just thought I'd just let everybody know what's coming up over the next week. Obviously, Red Sky Pod's a good friend of ours here on Red Sea and Southern Scouser. We're going to be doing a left back tier list. If any of you guys caught the goalkeeper one, we really enjoyed doing that one. So all the left backs since Kennedy, we'll be ranking them. And I'm sure me and you and Red Sky or Red Sea will be doing something on Madrid closer to the time. obviously definitely preview reactions on there, and keep it basically. Have a look at Never a Foul, where me and James are combining together for a really exciting project, Red Sea podcast, which you can find at the Red Sea Pod on Twitter, on Instagram. Obviously, you can find James at Thiagos Father on there as well, and myself at the Southern Scouts. But other than that, mate, I really enjoyed that little chat with you on this Easter Sunday.
Yeah, and, definitely. It was good catching up and obviously reviewing yesterday's exploits. It feels almost a lot better when you've got a win under the belt. That's it. Also tonight, catch me on Never a Foul extra time. We're gonna have myself representing Liverpool. Going to have some fresh faces from the Arsenal camp, because the boys that were on the Arsenal the other night are obviously feeling deflated and gone into hiding. So someone's put their hand up to get a grill in. We're going to have a Spurs fan on. Again, was going to be interesting reaction after today's result. It finished 2-2.
I'm just checking now. Yeah, I think it did.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting reaction at 2-2. And obviously myself, catch me up on like SS said, catch me on at Thiagos Father 89 on Twitter. I accept anybody and I'll follow anybody back. I'm not just dedicated to Liverpool in that respect. I'm football fans before I'm a Liverpool fan. So if anybody wants to hit me up and talk football, whether it be Bundesliga, La Liga, Serie A, Premier League, Championship, I'll talk about it all. I don't proclaim to know it all, but I'll have a conversation.
Absolutely, mate. That's what it's about. So is that tonight, 8 p.m. extra time? Is it on Never a Foul?
Yeah, 8 p.m. Obviously, we'll be tweeting the links out. I'm sure you'll catch it on our page at the Red Sea Pod. You'll catch it on there. So we'll tweet the links out as well. And if you get an opportunity after you're sitting down and tucking into a lovely Easter egg, get to see my face on there as well.
What could be better on a Sunday afternoon, mate?
Exactly. You want to see me, I'll be on there.
Love it, mate. Well, thanks again for joining me, mate, and I'm sure we'll catch you soon. And this has been the Southern Scouts. So, guys, take care.